What's going on YouTube? Graylan Stewart here again with another video. I'm an entrepreneur and a virtual wholesaler. So we wholesale in a market that we don't live in. So that's what virtual wholesaling is. And obviously we lock up deals all over the phone. So today's video is titled, do you need a CRM to succeed? So let's dive into it. So when I first started a couple years ago, obviously brand new, knowing nothing, just watching YouTube videos, YouTube University, like people like to say, is truly how I learned, every step of this entire process of wholesaling. So, obviously I didn't have a CRM when I started, and I would say it's definitely not necessary. I mean, I know people even now that do pretty good numbers, 50, 60, 70,000 a month, and all on paper. That's all you need. So really, you do kind of somewhat have to be organized a little bit, as long as you keep like a notebook. I think that suffices. Does a CRM help you? It can also hinder you, because I also know some wholesalers that they try to use a CRM and they're just kind of stuck in the CRM all the time, trying to make that thing work to where it benefits them, and in the meantime, they're just losing out on deals every day, because they're just stuck in their head and stuck believing that they can't do anything without having their CRM up to par and ready to be able to sell, and that's just not the case. I mean, when I first started, I've talked about this in other videos, but I did $72,000 my very first month. Obviously, when I first started, I didn't have a CRM my first month, and actually I didn't have one really my first several months. I had a yellow tablet, and that's all I kept. I wrote meticulous notes on every seller that I spoke to. I did have a script to where I had blanks that I could fill in, so I did make a script that way, and then I would punch holes in that and just keep it in a 3-ring binder. So I had the yellow tablet, and I had my little scripts that had sections for notes that I could do, and that kept me organized, and I just kind of flipped through my binder and would make follow-up calls, and then when I got to the end of it, I'd flip it back to the front and start over again. Every time I got a new deal or a new lead, I guess, I would just put that at the back of my folder and then just keep notes, so definitely it's possible, and probably much easier, especially when you're first starting out. And I would say a CRM when you're first starting is too overwhelming and not necessary. I honestly don't think you need a CRM until you're doing several deals a month on a consistent basis, because then at that point you're kind of starting to scale a little bit to where you need that organization, and you need that to help you keep in track with everything, because at this point you probably have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of leads in your pipeline, and when it gets kind of when it gets that big, you can't really. It's hard, rather, to keep track of that in a folder or in a binder, because when you're thumbing through hundreds of leads in a 3-ring binder, that can definitely get overwhelming, because you could spend 5 or 10 minutes just searching for this particular lead that you're thinking of in your head, as opposed to having an actual CRM where you can just search that name or easily find what you're looking for, depending on how you set your CRM up. But the title of this video is, do I need a CRM to succeed? The answer is absolutely not. I made several $100,000 before I ever got a CRM, so you definitely don't need it. But I would say for sure it definitely helps you. But I would even say when you first start out, don't even think about having one. There's no need. You have enough to worry about when you're first starting out, as far as just figuring out the entire wholesaling game and how it really works. So CRM is just going to hold you back. It's just like the people that all they ever do is watch videos and learn forever and ever, analysis paralysis. It's the same way that can happen with CRMs as well. You just get stuck in the CRM trying to build it out, trying to figure it out, trying to make it work the way you think it should work. And honestly, when you're first starting out anyways, you don't even know how you want it to work or how it should work. So just stay away from it. I'd say until you've got, a few dozen deals under your belt probably before you even need it. And not even just a few dozen deals, because you could be doing this for 10 years and you get a few dozen deals. You don't need a CRM at that point. But if you're doing several deals a month consistently, you absolutely need one at that point, because that's going to help you get organized, helping you follow up with sellers and just keep track of all that. Because like I said, if you have hundreds of papers and documents in a 3-ring binder at that point, it's going to be really difficult. But starting out, you absolutely do not need a CRM, and I highly suggest completely staying away from CRMs until you're ready. And you'll know when you're ready, when it's kind of feeling overwhelming with paper. Just think about, if you have a CRM and you don't really know what you're doing and you're trying to build that out or trying to make that work, when you're still trying to learn, everything about wholesaling and how that works and all the different contracts that you need and the different lists that you might need to pull and how to figure out buyers and sellers and probate attorneys and other kinds of attorneys and foreclosures and title companies and all these different things that come into play in wholesaling. You're already worried about that and trying to consume knowledge and make practical things happen in those aspects. But when you're trying to worry about a CRM on top of all that, that's definitely overwhelming. Because I'll tell you, just by experience, so it was probably month 4 or 5, maybe even month 3. I probably ended up getting a Podio system in month 3 or so, because I started in September basically, October, November. Yeah, so probably about the 3rd month. By the end of the year, I had a CRM and Podio, but it was so overwhelming, and unless you're like super technical or you have a lot of experience with CRMs or that kind of thing, it was overwhelming. Because I tried to merge that because I was getting to the point to where I had too many leads and it was too hard to keep track of yellow tablets or sometimes sticky notes if you don't have your tablet beside you. So I had all these loose papers everywhere, and I tried to keep them in a binder to keep me organized, which thankfully I am very organized, so that definitely helped me in that respect. But it just got to the point where I had too many. So I seeked out, like, okay, what can I do? So I found Podio. I found a guy that kind of already had a kind of a base model one built out, and I bought that from him. And but even that was just like, man, it kind of did so much that I didn't understand it, like all the moving parts that it did have to really benefit me. So I just ended up not using it, because I was kind of lost in it, like I was talking about before. I was just lost in trying to make it work and figure it out and still trying to learn. I was still new and figure all these other things out, especially when you got several deals closing every month. And, when you're new, you're doing every position in the company. So I was wearing a dozen hats and working all the time just to make this thing work. So adding that complicated CRM on top of all those things was super overwhelming. So I actually, after trying to mess with that for a couple months, I just quit using it, to be honest. And then, at that point, I was trying to figure out how I could scale anyways. So I actually ended up taking, 8 or 9 or 10 months off completely from wholesaling. And that's a whole nother story that I'll get into in other videos. So that's kind of what I did. So whenever I started back up, obviously I built the machine that I have now to where it runs my business, and I could not live without Podio at this point. But starting out, I would definitely highly recommend and suggest just leave a CRM alone. Don't even think about it, okay? You don't need it at first. Like I said, in my opinion, you don't need it until you have, several deals closing every single month consistently. Otherwise, it's costing you money. The CRM costs you time and money to build it out or to hire someone to build it out. Or even if you bought one of those pre-built ones, from someone that you pay $300-400 a month, it's costing you money that you just really could save, because it's going to be overwhelming. Trust me. Unless you're just super tech savvy, where you're really familiar with that stuff already, then I would say, don't do it. So, long story short, no, you don't need a CRM to be successful, because I definitely, I even had my first 6-figure month without a CRM, month 5. So you don't need it for sure. But, once you start scaling and you start growing, you absolutely need it. It's the most important piece of my business now. So I could never imagine myself not having it now. I mean, my entire business runs through Podio, and all the team members all have their own spaces in Podio. So it all works together and kind of runs as a machine. And so that's my 2 cents. I would definitely recommend, don't do a CRM until you got a lot of deals, okay? But don't let it hold you back. You don't need it. You know, just like a lot of these things, the gurus teach you out there, like you got to have this and this and this. No, you don't. All you really need is a motivated seller. You can write the stinking contract on a napkin, just saying I want to buy this house for this amount of money, and give it to the title company. They're going to take it, and then you go find a buyer. Say, hey, I've got a house under contract and need a buyer. It's that simple, really. Don't get caught up in all the crazy things that you could do or should do or might do, or all these crazy things. Really, you need a motivated seller, a contract, and then find a buyer, and you're done. And then get your check. So you can learn as you grow, and add things as you grow. So that's my 2 cents. Hope that information's helpful to you. So just remember, when you're starting out, absolutely don't need a CRM. You could do lots and lots of deals without a CRM, but when you start growing, I highly suggest getting one. Whatever system works kind of best for you, just research them out and go that route. So that's it for today. Hopefully you liked it. Please subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. Definitely trying to grow the channel. Share the content if you find it valuable, and comment, share. Drop me, positive or negative comments. Whatever you feel. My whole channel is about honesty and telling the truth. So I don't want to fluff, and I don't want you to fluff either. So keep me some real comments in there, and I'll definitely reply to them. And hope to see you guys in future videos. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.